Hi, I'm Bryce.
And I'm Jimmy.
We are telecom and creative professionals. We're also fans of podcasting as our respective careers give us an abundance of windshield time.
While there is a podcast for just about any obscure topic you can think of, there was no regular podcast pertaining to Montana politics.
And that is why, with our combined powers, we are Montana Voices Podcast.
We strive to be an independent voice for all issues pertaining to Montanans and Montana politics.
We also strive to be very forthcoming with our personal biases as we attempt to see beyond them.
Montana Voices Podcast does not operate in a vacuum. We need your support, whether that be listening to our cast, providing us feedback, sending us conversation topics, sharing our content, or providing financial support.
We look forward to a long career in podcasting with your added assistance.
So welcome to episode 18 of Montana Voices. We're getting up there in the episodes here, and before we start, we'll run through our business here.
You're probably already there right now listening to this as we speak, but if not, our website is always montanavoicespodcast.com. If you'd like to reach out to us to be on the podcast or to let us know about any concerns or comments regarding the show, our email address is going to be montanavoices@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle is going to be at Montana_voices. Our Facebook account is at Montana Voices Podcast. Our Twitch is twitch.tv/Montana Voices, and you can find all of our episodes if you search for Montana Voices Podcast on YouTube.
Absolutely, and I guess before we get into the business, we have the most pressing matter here. The Roadhouse is closed for the Super Bowl tomorrow.
It's only breakfast anyway, so it's not like you'd be there at night.
Oh, it's a breakfast only on Sunday?
It is, so they're probably...
Do they do the hell fries?
I don't know, maybe like hell hash browns?
That's almost the same thing.
It should be. If they don't, they should really think about it. I'm not friends with Tara on Facebook, like everybody else on our friends list is, it seems. But
well, they probably enjoy a good burger, so I can see why.
Yeah. So let that be our small business shout out for the day. Roadhouse Cafe in Great Falls, also the most iconic diner in Montana per MSNBC's list of 50 most iconic diners, one per state. So yeah, they won the one for Montana.
It's not technically a diner, though. I mean, the diner is in the name, but when you think of diner, that's more of home style with a variety of food.
It's home style.
Well, it is home, but it's just burgers. It's a burger, dive for lack of a better explanation on that.
Well, I mean, I consider the dive to be a diner as well. It's got that same atmosphere. There's Coke memorabilia on the walls.
They got their flair on the walls, but we're going to have a burger showdown between the two, and I think the only fair way to do it is to have burgers ordered at the same time and traveled, meet in Lewistown, so they're equally aged. Granted, hour-old burger may not be great, but it's the only way to properly compare these two.
Do you think? Oh, geez, I was going to say, I wonder when we can do this next.
When we can have the real burger showdown?
Yeah, because I feel like we should really do this at some point. It'd be good for the just good hype overall,
Well, absolutely. We'll have to. I'm not friends with any of either Tara or was it Justin? I forget his name. Or
I don't know.
I forget.
Dive Man. We'll call him that.
I don't know who the family is. I'm pretty sure I know. I've been there enough times to know. But best burgers in the state, until that's later challenged, there's I forget the name. It's maybe a Best Burger in Libby, and I'll definitely be experiencing that this week because I'm going up north to the asbestos capital of the United States. So Ooh. I'll have an update for you that and maybe we can toss them into the contention here if it works out.
A lot of fun up there. Shout out to the Venture Inn in Libby, Montana. If you're staying up there for any elongated period of time, in which point you're going to have to find yourself catching some sleep, Venture Inn is by far the best place to sleep in Libby.
Absolutely. I haven't even tried the other places, but I understand they have the only hot tub in Libby.
Wow. I'm sure. Well, I'd like to think that some residents have hot tubs up there, but
Well, only public hot tub. I would hope so. It's pretty economically depressed up there, so maybe that really is the only hot tub.
Very well could be the only one, physically safe. The other ones could be cast out of asbestos potentially. I never even thought about that, staying in the venture, and that could be why the ratings are so high, is they have no asbestos in that building. It's made out of like straight brick, isn't it? Unless that's asbestos brick.
Well, I believe it is brick, so yeah, no asbestos. Last time I was there, I can't tell you where I was, but I was humored that some of the hot water pipes were labeled non-asbestos.
When everyone probably shook their heads in disappointment as they built this new fancy hotel out of cinder block. Huh, what a foolish idea. Little did they know at the time.
Hindsight 2020, but no longer the asbestos capital of the world. That title goes to Asbestos Russia, I believe. The town literally labeled asbestos, and there's nothing wrong with asbestos. I saw a documentary on it, and all this concerns and rumors and talks of health concerns or whatever is just Western propaganda designed to depress the Russian economy.
I see. Well, I mean, you can only sell it to people who are buying it, I guess, so let them keep selling it.
Yeah, I guess so. It's their turn to shine. It's sort of the same thing I heard, with in defense of China, which is hard to do. China has become a real leader in greenhouse emissions recently, and of course, America would like to say, China, clean up your act. But the counter to that is, America, you had your industrial revolution. You were allowed to pollute without regard for, some 100 years or so. Now it's our turn to, bring ourselves into the first world.
Yeah, well, geez. China.
Communist China.
Chi-coms, as Rush would call them.
Well, we have some actual business to go through.
Yeah, let's bring it back to the in-state here,
Yeah, absolutely. China, too far. We, of course, on last time, we talked about a number of issues, and this list is getting long. Number of bills, a lot of them that are coming back in April. We'll keep you updated on those. Firework taxes, rape kits, bears and wolf licenses.
Oh, my.
Yes, exactly. Talks about buying coal strip. In the very last episode, the Tribune in Uncertain Waters, we had a cell ban, Artillery 1, and joint rules changes. Now on to new business.
See, new stuff going on here. Let's see, what do we got going on first here?
Well, looks like the Salish up here are making a committee and asking for public comments from their people on missing Indigenous women, and looks like that is definitely needed. We've discussed that in the past about the what appears to be the epidemic of missing Indigenous women, which
it's finally picking up some views, I guess, some attention from the general public, and so I think we're going to finally see a lot more done over all of this.
We can hope so. And I'm not sure, we discussed our not knowing the exact causes of these things, but, part of it is the ambiguity and of who's enforcing what, and, it's sort of understood, or I assume understood if you're, looking to kidnap or traffic somebody. It's probably easier to do than somebody that people aren't really going to look for. But, of course, the Salish are looking to change that, so good on them.
Indeed. I hope they can get her done.
And we've got Tester and Danes both on the committee, Native American committee in Washington, so hopefully some good will come from Washington. You can't even say that. Does good come from Washington?
I wonder, those two must have some great back and forth in the elevator.
Do they even talk to each other? I have never seen them in the same room, really.
Well, I mean, I've seen them in a couple things where they're together. And all I can think is it must be similar to Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly.
Like Step Brothers? But less funny Step Brothers.
Exactly, like Step Brothers, but without the humor.
Well, I have never seen Tester play Danes in a game of basketball, nor go to Taco John's with him. So.
Exactly, he's never bought him a burrito, so I mean, does Steve Daines even eat food?
No, whatever Republicans eat. So that's terrible. I'm kidding. I'm mostly Republican now. I have a Mercedes, so
Indeed, a Mercedes, and you're living in Missoula, and um, you hate your neighbors, right?
with exceptions. A lot of them are really nice. So yeah, I got a Mercedes, and I saw another
Really
one
nice,
driving
but
down
you're
the
not
road.
gonna invite them over for dinner anytime soon. Let's be honest.
Well, we've lived here for a year and never have. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, folks, he's turned full Republican. All right. Hey, we've finally no longer an echoing chamber here.
Yep, exactly. It was mentioned that we argue more, and we'll get more to that. So, well, people to argue with. There's a new boss in town, specifically for the Great Falls superintendent. They've made their choice after that. Was it the Minnesota guy actually dropped out?
Yeah. People were really. I wouldn't. Spooked might not be the best word, but it's the only word I can think of for this. Like when the guy dropped out, it happened really quick, and from what I understand, they didn't bring in any kind of secondary option or anything.
Well, that's interesting. So they didn't. I know some people were suggesting that they reopen it and at least have 3 candidates to actually interview and go through. And I know this is a job, but of course it's not a standard job interview. These are open to the public, and the public's input is considered here. I guess they would be a public servant at this point. But it looks like, what was it? Thomas Moore is going to be the next one. He's taking home a salary about $150K, which is up from sub 6 figures from last year.
Yeah.
Well, that's telling you. They get the woman out and they can increase it, 50%? Jeez.
Yeah, they were, I don't know, Tammy Lacey, they were always really pissed that she was making 6 figures, but it's like, man.
Was it 6 figures? I thought she was just slightly short of it.
I think she was at it. Like she was just hit that 100K mark. Close to it or something to that regard. But either way, they thought that no public school official should be paid that much fucking money when these teachers aren't paid that much, and when these kids aren't smarter, and
yeah, we're paying for smart kids here for sure, but
not paying for a good manager.
I'll see both sides. I'll say the un-Republican thing and note that this is a managerial position that is managing thousands of employees. I don't know how many employees GFPD has, but it's got to be in the thousands.
Oh yeah, then you got to account for all the fucking kids too. So that's
obviously it's a big impact job. So for somebody that has the skills and the experience and education to do that, I would be surprised if they weren't making 6 figures.
Yeah, that seems like I don't know. It's not an easy job.
It is a split edge, but you kind of expect the teachers to get into it, for the love of teaching and for the impact that they do. Because it's certainly not for the money, but yet we don't expect that, from the administration, which is interesting.
Yeah, no one loves to get into it because they love administering.
Yeah, so that's sort of I guess teachers just need. You can't say demand higher pay because there's a union that's trying to do that. Certainly, we're not Chicago, where they're actually Denver. Excuse me, it's Denver where they actually had the most recent teacher strike. And some people
they went
would
in
argue,
California too, didn't they?
Striking everywhere.
We're not going to take it.
Well, we should cue up that music here so we can get some copyright strikes.
Demonetized. Yeah, let's move on. This topic sucks.
Yeah, well, 6 figures. Apparently, that's about what you need to afford housing in Helena. I pulled this from the Helena Air, where they were discussion about the increased housing prices in Helena, and to which Helena has apparently never seen Missoula. My goodness. The rent over here is, and with property taxes and restrictions, it's, unfortunately for Missoula, most of their problems are in government as far as housing goes. It's almost impossible to build a new trailer park. We're trying to get away from trailer parks here. They just shut one down near our house, and it was a big kerfluffle while that happened.
How did they shut it down? Did
Well,
they like kick out all the residents, or?
n- yes, they actually did kick out all the residents. With increasing pressure from the city, the county on regulations and everything, and saying they had to, basically pave their roads, which is of course, prohibitively expensive, and combined with the troubles of actually managing a trailer park, of which there are many, they decided to get out of that business. So that lot is still for sale.
I see. Does it have all
So
the
we can't.
trailers?
No, the trailers have been torn down, and it was sort of sad to see because those people were. I mean, if somebody's living in a trailer, they probably don't have the funds required to move their trailer. Because last I knew, that was about $5,000 or so. If we go through all the
Yeah,
permits,
it's not cheap. You got to get all the permits, and then you got to find the truck that can make that move. Then you got to do all the unhooking. You got to, depending on where you're at, too, you got to look into your regulations for the traffic as well. And you got to
Oh man, just driving a trailer through Missoula. My goodness.
Yeah, can you imagine? Like, I mean, I'm sure some of those have been there for years, and with the way that the city has grown and expanded around it, I wonder if it was in an area where it was even viable to try and get it out, or if it was just gonna cause so much of a headache, mid morning trying to get out of like the orange exit or something, where they're just like, no way, it's not happening.
Well, these people were, and understandably, were a bit upset about this. And essentially, their property is being taken from them because they do not have the means to move their trailer. And so a lot of them just destroyed their trailers. We had a few fires going on over there. Literally walls missing, just furniture, whatever, just thrown willy-nilly, to point out. So yeah, it was an unfortunate side effect that, people did get really screwed in this, and probably the people with the, least means in order to handle that. Now, it's interesting that the, city and county would prefer to push them to, apartments rather than their, it's a home ownership essentially to push them out of that into an apartment, but that appears to be what the city of Missoula prefers with their regulations. There's a lot of them, and even if you're building, I'm friends with a family here that had big dreams in their eyes about buying some property and building from scratch, but ran into lots of trouble with red tape and are now back living in an apartment because that's what the city of Missoula prefers, I guess.
Really?
Yeah, they ran into some issues. They really want to do the tiny house movement. I mean, is that not that seems pretty environmentally responsible, if you ask me,
like buy
and
a
minimalistic,
plot of land
of course.
and build a tiny house?
Yeah, but there is height minimum requirements in Missoula County specifically. So that's why any mini house or tiny house in Missoula is built on wheels, so it's technically a trailer and not a house, because you cannot have a house that small.
I see. That's just wow. Missoula sucks, man. Like, that's some stupid regulations. You can't have a house too small.
Yeah, there's quite a few stupid regulations, but it's the Republican Party now to me. Missoula really polarizes you. You're either all for it or you want nothing to do with this government that we got here. And on the flip side of that, you could argue that the economic activity and all the population in Missoula and our upwards trends necessitate this sort of liberal type government that we have, because you do see that in a lot of very metropolitan areas where does the liberal government limit what they're doing, or is it as a result of the economic activity here? Chicken and egg, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, well, yeah, you make some good logic there. And that's why I feel like I'm an independent, because man, that just is irritating having to deal with all of that. I'm on a county land here in Cascade, and it's like a libertarian mecca, I gotta say.
Yeah, I understand there's some animals there that you can't have in the city. Great Falls, you can't have chickens. For those of our listeners that don't know that, there's chicken rules that I think they tried to get rid of those, but they could not.
They did. It was on the ballot this last year. It did not go well, though. It was a defeated attempt. However, out here on county land, it's free range all time. You want chickens, you got them. So And I'm in a
just the
weird
government.
spot here too because I'm within city limits, but I'm still on county land, so we have the ability to do chickening here.
Well, it's in county lands, and in the city, the government does hold you back. Apparently, something else the government's holding us back on, and I didn't even know. There's a new bill coming through. Students cannot consent to sex with teachers or any school employees, for that matter.
Oh, good.
Well, I suppose it's about time, but the people that would do this sort of thing, I don't imagine they're deterred much by that. For reference, Senate Bill 132, sponsored by Keith Reiger out of Kalispell, Republican.
Never heard of him.
Neither have I. But elementary or secondary school, that includes high school. I mean, I thought elementary school was a given, and maybe the lines get blurred a little bit when you're talking about high school seniors, but elementary school shouldn't even need to be listed here. That's a completely different felony.
I thought you were talking about like university students when you said school. I guess I didn't. Well, it seems really stupid to have this rule for like we need to like put time into passing this law for third graders that is already blanket covered by this law about having sex with kids in the first place. Like this is god damn it. Why we have this is stupid. It should make laws that cover but just a blanket don't have sex with anyone under 17 in high school.
Is the age of consent 17 or 18 in Montana? I can't recall. Because, like most normal, regular people, this has never been a concern for me. So, I'm not sure. It's got to be at least 18 or maybe younger.
Dude, I don't know. I've found a really good way to not ever have trouble with any of this is to go with someone who is older than you.
Brilliant.
No way. Or
at least your age. And secondary, is that talking about high school or middle school? Secondary education.
Secondary. I think secondary means like college, but I don't know.
Well, we'll have an answer here shortly. The last 4 years of school, so it is high school. The last 4 years of statutory formal education. God, we looked up a definition. We used the internet for good. Elementary school. Maybe that language was just tossed in there. But also secondary school. I did discuss maybe a line being blurred when you're talking about an actual 18-year-old, even though you shouldn't. And it would technically be legal before this law. This just states that they cannot give consent because that seems pretty common sense to me. But if you're talking about a 17, 18-year-old, they obviously aren't in a position to give consent to an educator or any student. I guess that technically makes that what would be a consensual relationship outside of school. If you're a school employee, this would then make that rape, since it's just changing definitions here, right?
I don't know. If you're banging kids, it should be rape. So.
Well, absolutely. But if it's an 18-year-old in high school.
Yeah. Well,
it absolutely should be.
If we're going to talk about all this, sexual misconduct, can we at least talk about it with, let's bump the age up a bit here and talk about, older people misconduct. Next topic.
Older people misconduct. There's a sex thing in the governor's office, maybe. There's... I first picked this up on, was it Capital Whispers? It's sort of a gossip site. It's the sort of...
That sounds like an erotic novel series. That sounds like straight up on the shelf at Albertsons.
Well, it almost reads like that, because one of the things, and it's completely anonymous, I could not find out whom is, putting this up and doing the actual writing for this.
This is the actual host. Sounds like the work of Bill O'Reilly.
It could be one of his cronies definitely involved here. But I was really curious to figure out who might be running this thing, and so far I have not made any headway. So, if any of our listeners have any information who runs Capital Whispers, or Capital Rumors, now I'm going to have to look it up again. But for quite a while, there's a number of articles sort of alluding and suggesting that Bullock is some sort of sexual fiend, basically.
I thought it was his aide.
Well, his aide actually got in some trouble, and something actually happened there. He was fired before, and apparently has been fired again, or resigned. Let's see. So, yeah, I was more focusing on this is Kevin O'Brien, who ran his Bullock's gubernatorial campaign, and worked in New York City. What's he doing over there? Anyway, so he got fired over there. And apparently got fired again. Maybe his history was unknown at the time was completely possible. So I don't know, an aide getting fired, not the big news. But the other concern is, I'm not sure if there's any truth to, what this website says about Bullock and his sexual fiendness that goes on at the Capitol.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of this site before, so I guess we'll see, but
we will get back to Bullock in a moment.
If that's the case and Bullock is a sexual fiend, then I say he should probably not be our governor. But
there could be more of him later. We'll get to that in a moment. But speaking of fiendishness, I just filed this under test or no. On an interview, he says he favors compromise on the border wall, and it almost sounds like that he would be in favor of a wall if it was not called a wall. Is how the word structure. It's hard to get through to politicians that are, try to make things as ambiguous as they can to appeal to as many people as they can. So that was suggested, and that I feel that a lot of Democrats are willing to compromise on. If it's a wall, call it something else, because, we're dug in on our heels on no wall, but a reinforced concrete fence, maybe.
I think he just wants to see an ending to all this nonsense, and he understands that Trump's crazy, and sometimes you have to use some just crazy tactics to deal with crazy people, and that's what he's trying to do here, it sounds like. So he's compromising on it and saying, yeah, let's throw him $5 and he can use that.
$5 billion, the down payment.
Yeah, that was an acronym.
Yeah.
So
he's the money on this, and I'm still arguing that it's on the wrong border.
I'm with you 100%. Tester, as our senator too, I feel should be pushing for the northern wall on this. I think that he should be presenting to the rest of the Senate along with Tester. Maybe I really wish that they were letting him do the follow-up to the State of the Union instead of Stacey Abrams. In that regard, other than that, I think it's cool that Stacey Abrams is doing it, sure. But I think that if they let him do it, and then he could present a northern wall.
I would compromise on a southern wall so long as it's around California. If we can get that in the books, that would be great too. So,
indeed,
those California. I've made the comment before. Montana. I don't know if we get a lot of Californians or if this just feels like that because we're such a low population comparatively. So it's probably not a whole lot of Californians that come to Montana. But given their low population, it just feels like they're all coming here. Once again, if you're from California and you're leaving because of their liberal government or their regulation or whatever, maybe don't vote the same way when you get to Montana. Advice I've given you before. Let's not make it a colder California.
Well, jeez.
But I do appreciate having the second house and paying taxes on a house you only see 3 months out of the year. So,
moving on.
Yeah, now that we've argued about Tester for a while and Californians in general, Bullock 2020, according to Politico, that might be a thing. Pick this up from Politico, where they say Republicans appear to like him, which is interesting. I don't know what Republicans they're talking about. Maybe not Montana Republicans. So,
yeah, he's pretty well hated around here.
Well, in that clan for sure. So, maybe, he's a Montana Democrat, which I suppose makes him a, national moderate, to say the least. But they put a lot of emphasis on his big push for Medicaid in Montana. They're looking to expand that, and if he can get that done, it may give him some footing for Bullock 2020.
Ooh, geez. Just what we need. One more person.
Yeah, who do
Him,
we got? We got
Kamala, let's see, Warren,
is Warren
probably
actually in?
Clinton. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Warren's in.
Maybe no, it can't be Clinton again. They you know
Well,
what?
she's not outright said no. From what it's been reported on, she's said that she's left the door open for it and things of that nature. So, um, everyone's going to yell, please God, no, if she does. So I don't think she's got a chance. She probably won't. But apart from that, you got Cory Booker also going there. So who's Tester going to ball up with there? Is he going to ball up with Cory Booker? Or is he going to ball up with Bullock?
Well, he'd have to go with Bullock, but he has played basketball with Cory Booker, so
Exactly. Basketball or Taco John's? Like, where's your heart lie there?
well,
You're-
I've seen and met John
you're-
Tester. I know where his heart lies.
John, your foot moves say basketball, but your gut line says Taco John's. What other states even have Taco John's?
I thought it was a sort of a northwestern sort of thing, but I could be wrong. I've never gone anywhere exotic and sought out a Taco John's, so I can't tell you.
Well, if I'm ever in another state and I see one, I'm definitely stopping there.
Well, you definitely should. It's a staple. It's almost as especially for these small rural towns like the McDonald's. I know there's a decent one up in Browning, as I recall. Hopefully still open.
Your Taco John's?
Yeah, there's a Taco John's up there.
Yeah, your Taco John's is really good in Browning.
It's really, yeah, it's right next to the trailer that has, I don't know if it's a joke, it says Montana Democratic Headquarters on this rundown trailer. It's got to be a joke. I hope it's a joke.
Yeah, that's the one. It looks like it might have been in actual headquarters at one time, but that was like in the 80s.
Well, somebody should pull their sign down because it makes them look bad.
Yeah, definitely.
Things aren't going so well for the Democrats up there, or actually they're going pretty well. But if that's their trailer, another comment: why is there a trailer? Just the butt end of a trailer on Main Street is probably another question, but to each their own, I guess.
They aren't quite as scrutinizing as Missoula is when it comes to regulations.
You can probably have a tiny house up there. And speaking of houses, I pointed it out when we were doing our native episode. I forget which one that was, but I actually had the B-roll of us driving through Browning. A lot of new developments up there, new houses that are mostly vacant at this point. So I don't know if it's spending federal dollars for the sake of spend it or lose it, or what's going on with these houses that are built and vacant up there.
Well, that's a shame if they're left vacant and used with government money. Sounds like a waste of tax dollars. Sounds a bit like that.
Well, one might argue that a lot of this is, but we'll wrap it up. Talking enough about walls and houses, we'll move on to locks. Going back to Missoula, one man is apparently, for some reason, seems like he's the least affected. Like with a lot of things, the most outraged are the least affected. He's upset about the locks on the Van Buren Bridge. And for those that don't know, it's a walking bridge that connects across the river, and it's only for walking. And we ripped off Paris with our Love Locks thing. And as I understand, Paris has also had to take their locks down because it was too heavy for the bridge. But we've done the same thing, and one man wants them gone.
I had no idea that we had a bunch. Are they still actively hanging up there?
Yep, absolutely.
And this guy did he go out and try and knock them down himself?
No, he's petitioning the government to have them removed and possibly introduce a bill that would make it a crime to put your locks up there.
Who broke his heart?
That might be the question here, and his heart.
I feel like there is a potential movie plotline here underlying that could be used. Someone really did this man wrong, and I feel like there's probably a loved one of his that has a lock up there who did not lock that lock with him, maybe. Locked that lock with another loved one,
That's
thus breaking his heart.
that's got to be it. I can think of no other way why this guy is concerned about it. He was concerned about the fish at first, and then he made a comment about the. Apparently, people throw the keys in the river, which I was not familiar with.
Wouldn't you need those to get back in your car, you idiots?
No, the lock keys.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, even more so, then you can't get the lock off. Foolish. What if you break up with that person?
Well, that's the idea. It's symbolic that this will never need to be unlocked.
Oh,
So,
well, if you're that serious about it, go get a tattoo.
oh yeah, face tattoo for sure.
With their name.
Yeah, I see nothing that can go wrong there. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, well, we ended on a happy note. The last episode was pretty morbid, so I'm happy we did that about the locks. We'll ridicule this one man. I don't even want to name him, and at this point I can't because I have to. Apparently, I'm over my Missoulian article limit for the ever. Basically, need to do some subterfuge or something and get around that here.
Indeed. We're still a little short here on time, so real quick, this is so unprofessional, but I'm just scanning through Great Falls KRTV website here to see. We didn't mention the weather at all.
There is a vortex coming.
Yeah, it's headed this way. It's hitting as we speak, as a matter of fact. Let me see what the weather is right now. Let's see.
Is it negative degrees there?
Almost. Right now it is 2 degrees outside.
Jeez.
There's a little bit of snow showers going on there. So that is, I'm not looking forward to having to go outside. I will probably push that off until tomorrow, afternoon if I can help it. If I can manage it, I will just not go outside at all tomorrow. And I'll just, push that off until Monday morning when I'm forced to do so when I go to work. Also in the news here, it looks like Cattleman's Cut in Great Falls, just outside of Great Falls on the way to Vaughn there, is relocated to the old On the Border location in Marketplace in Great Falls. So,
That's too bad. I like them. Nothing ever survives in that location.
no, that's where places go to die. So I'm hoping that they can stick it out there. Potentially this could be good for them because they already have, that decent following, and this is a lot closer. So people
will it make a difference? Part of the allure was the drive to the middle of nowhere, I thought.
Kind of, as fancy as, you had to drive out there. And then, I remember, like, my grandparents would go out with us and buy everyone dinner, and then they'd get just fucking loaded, and we have to drive back. But,
Classic.
I don't know. This could be good. It's right down the way for a lot of people in Marketplace, or in the Fox Farm area. So,
well, that's probably worth discussing. I don't know if it's a peril of moving. I mean, they're halfway to Vaughn. For our not Great Falls listeners, said I have no demographics on this. Perhaps we should work on the website and understand where our listeners are actually from. But I don't even know how many people are listening, so we'll work on that first. But Vaughn is about what's that, west of Great Falls? It was about 15 miles about, or less?
Yeah, it's west of Great Falls. I want to say about 15, 20 miles or so.
Yeah, and Cattleman's Cut was about halfway between Vaughn and Great Falls, and it was certainly a short drive on the frontage road, and it just had it's existed there for decades, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, when it was there, the way you would describe it to people is it's just up the road from really Wendy's.
Well, there is no real Wendy's anymore.
There's not, but then people would ask you what really Wendy's is, and then you'd be like, "What? Oh, well, what's really Wendy's?" And then you could go into a conversation about what really Wendy's is.
Oh, did you? Well, for the listeners who don't know, Real Wendy's was a former strip club which was shut down in Great Falls for accusation of prostitution, I believe.
Indeed. I remember I talked to a gal who used to work there as a dancer, and she told me that uh, at one of the meetings when she first started working there, the manager telling all the girls there said basically, you can get a tip for any of the work there, but you can't get paid for it. So if you want to give them a hand job and they tip you for it, that's fine. So that's the
Well,
kind of place that was.
there was another incident with them. Part of it was the maybe alleged prostitution, but apparently the dancers were they tried to write them as independent contractors, and they actually paid to do it. And I think the Supreme Court has actually upheld that they are not independent contractors because the club has too much, or club. I'm calling it a club. It's essentially a bar off a stage. Has too much control over them, so they're actually employees, even if they have to pay to get up on stage, which just seems such like a weird way to set that up, I suppose. So they got in trouble for that as well, as I recall.
That's wild. Yeah. Is that like everywhere? Or is that just Montana?
That is everywhere. I think that went to the Supreme Court here.
I just saw a thing on Vice about how the Super Bowl tomorrow is going to make the strip clubs in Atlanta go crazy. So
is it
can be a lot of money there? I guess two of like the most famous strip clubs in Atlanta are like just kitty corner, like 3 blocks or so away from the stadium, the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So,
very. Yeah, I saw a Mercedes driving down the street and had a Vote Republican sticker on it. But I was like, isn't that a bit redundant? I mean, you're already driving a Mercedes. You don't need to tell me that.
Yeah, they make a good car. They make a good stadium. So
this was a discussion. I pulled this up from the Bozeman Daily Chronicle dating back to 2003, and it makes mention that they were independent contractors at that time. That was Teasers out in Three Forks, I believe it is. Maybe Bozeman does not have that same strip club problem that Billings does. Or Billings actually doesn't. They have a prostitution problem, I suppose, as we discussed in our last
has
episode.
I don't know, that's more of a high-end one. I guess it's got that same allure that Really Wendy's was going for of like, it's out in the middle of nowhere, whereas Really Wendy's more brought a vibe of like it's out in the middle of nowhere next to the stockade for the cattle auction. And then when you heard that, you're like, oh. Instead, with this, it was Teasers. It's on the exit to Bozeman there, Three Forks and Townsend. And you get there, and it's right down the road from a town pump.
It's very civilized there.
It's a very
I've
big,
never been,
nice town
as
pump.
I mentioned in a previous episode.
And then on top of that, the Teasers is attached to an Adam and Eve toy store, or adult toy store. But that's like a national chain, so that's also a top brand,
Yeah, I suppose that has really changed. You just have to go to dark alleys to get these. And we're going back into a previous episode where we discussed this. But you're right that having only driven by it, it does seem like a higher class establishment than Real Wendy's or its villain contemporary Planet Lockwood, which was about equal in class, I thought.
Yeah, Planet Lockwood, from what I understand, was kind of like the playground. Anyways, regardless, though, to kind of deter the subject away from strip clubs and prostitution there, potentially, we didn't even mention Butte, and I feel like we need to mention Butte. Because Butte got fucking crazy. It got really Butte in Butte this week.
Well, not from a Butte resident, apparently. Just a bus guy, it sounds like. Held up a bus for a while, said he had a bomb.
Yeah, the KRTV article on it, if you guys go check it out, is pretty awesome. They have a picture of the man who was taken hostage. He kind of looks like somebody who would take a bus hostage, but he
was the victim here, as I recall.
His interview to the CBS affiliate is just
It's
probably the
gold.
best. It's probably the best interview I've seen from a local personality within the state all year. He hit all the great points, and then it sounds like he said all the right things to the man who took him hostage. He sided with him. He got in some good quirks there, and he just gave a good solid interview all the way around. The thing I didn't like about the interview, though, is that this guy who interviewed him with the Butte CBS affiliate, his name's like John Emy or something. He did this weird ass cut in of himself asking questions to the man.
Well, wouldn't that be an editor's problem? Or
well, the thing is, Jim, that at this level, these guys edit their own packages a lot of time, and I know that this guy edited his own package.
oh, he just wanted to be seen in it.
Exactly. So he threw himself into this package the same way that Anderson Cooper would on an episode of 60 Minutes or something. But
they only have one camera, so did he like jump out from behind the camera and get right next to the guy? I remember the interview, but I think I saw it edited, so I only saw the actual victim.
Yeah, no, it's it looks really weird too because it's like at a different height and like it's different lighting, so it almost looks like it's in a different room, and it's just like what the like it really does not fit at all. But he like asked the question and then he kicks right back to the same angle that the dude was in, so it almost makes you wonder if he like asked that question after the fact, like after he's like, okay, I'll see you later, thanks for stopping in. And then after he left, he's like, all right, get the camera set up here. I got to ask all these questions again. Like,
well, that is, maybe he's trying to get out of the Butte market. You got to be very...
potentially. This guy's been working for this affiliate since I was working for the local affiliate. And I got to say that his packages are really just like laughable and... oh, they're just bad. I remember there was one where he, I believe it was him, he had a package where he did like a stand-up shot is what they call it, where they stand there essentially and just talk about the subject that they're shooting about. And for this one, he was on a playground for whatever reason, but he like was underneath some playground equipment, and he like crawled out from underneath it in like a trench coat like thing he was wearing. And
oh man,
yeah, it was just
there's no socially acceptable way to wear a trench coat anymore. Sorry,
indeed.
that died in 2002 or whatever year it was.
Precisely. So. And no matter what he was talking about, I couldn't tell you because the second that I saw him crawl out from underneath that playground equipment in that coat, immediately, it just I lost all train of thought about what the topic of the piece was about. So, jeez. Anyways, Butte Man, we're glad that you're safe. Welcome on the show anytime.
It was gold. And I just remember seeing the footage of him getting off the bus. I mean, he's smoking a cigarette while he's doing it. You got to smoke on the bus, so you got that going for you. But he probably has the smoker's lung because he takes 3 steps and then immediately does the Rocky shakes fists in the air like I'm the champion, and then walks casually away from the bus.
Yeah, he got it out pretty quick there.
Apparently he punched the guy, or defended himself somehow. So
yeah, it's Butte versus everybody is what they say. So whoever this dude was, he got off on the wrong fucking town. I tell you what.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, not Butte. Would have ended differently if he's in Missoula. And,
yeah, they say should have got off in Missoula. They would have probably let you go.
No, they would have consulted a focus group to determine how we got to this point of microaggressions or actual aggressions. But,
brought in a psychologist to deep dive on his personal life.
Yeah, well, if everyone on that bus was armed, it'd be a very different situation and probably a few more people getting shot, probably. So,
well, that's why I wasn't a bus in Jordan.
Exactly. You got to plan these right. But it sounds like this guy was confused and wanted to see the governor or some officials or something. You may know, maybe this is a rule for future casts. Luckily, we don't have many of these terrible incidents, but I suppose we're not giving attention to the victors here, or the assailants, I guess we should say.
Yeah,
So,
no, we the only person that we named here is
we called out a
Damien
report.
Baumgartner is his name, and he is the guy who was taken hostage. So whoever the crazy Montana assailant, we'll call him that.
Yeah, from Spokane, apparently.
Of course, figures.
Yeah, figures. And also kudos to that bus driver. Apparently he was able to, after he got off the bus, he disabled the bus from the back. So that bus was going nowhere.
Oh, good.
So good on them. You really took the distance there. I mean, he's a bus driver. You could just get off and not care about a thing, and nobody would question him about anything. So
basically, from what I understand, a lot of those places run under LLCs. So yeah, the second he stops off and clocks out, I think he kind of rids himself of any responsibilities to an extent.
Yep. I wonder if he got overtime for that. Was Butte his last stop? We couldn't be sure. They run a ring, but yeah, we'll be more concerned about bus schedules at a later time.
Indeed. Well, that put us right about at 50 minutes there.
Yeah, but where did the time go? Well, I suppose we'll get this one in the book, episode 18 of Montana Voices.
Indeed. We don't have to go over all the business stuff.
We did that in the header there, but exciting things are coming in the future for Montana's Voices. Hopefully we'll be some guest hosts as well. I've got a few contacts that are working out of people of influence that may join and may offer their take, which is very different than ours, even though, like I said, I am a Republican now. So we'll look forward to that in the future.
Indeed. Should be a great time in the future.
It'll be as soon as next week, but things will be released. And if you want to reach out to us, please do. We are, of course, on any social media you can find. Some we don't even use, but we're there. Even YouTube comments, we do check those and heed those, and take your suggestions. Maybe not use them all the time. Sometimes they're not so great. But if you have ideas for future topics, things you'd like to discuss, or even if you'd possibly like to be on either in any capacity, a short or even a longer guest hosting fashion, let us know. The worst we can say is no.
Indeed. The absolute worst we can say is no. The absolute worst we can do is not block you by any means.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for listening to episode 18 of Montana Voices.